But the politics are messy. The relocation rumors are flying. Is Arizona about to lose another professional sports franchise? I don't think so. However, stranger things have happened. Mm-hmm. Coyotes are a completely different situation.
Yep.
Bankruptcy, the league ran them, and we can go on and on about that. But when you have a situation like the Diamondbacks, that a stadium that's 30 years old, that needs some improvements, and you've had the House of Representatives here in Arizona vote yes, they're on board. Diamondbacks putting in half of it, $250 million.
Rick's good to go.
And then then the Senate, which will probably vote, they're Republican. However, the mayor is Democrat, and she can veto it. So we figured it's very appropriate because our next guest is sports professors in D.C., I believe, doing a speech on this kind of stuff. Is that true, Rick? Are you doing speeches on financing of stadiums and things of that sort?
Hey, good day. I'm giving speeches on the broad application of sports business and what it means to cities to use sports as a relocation tool for industry, which of course means advocating facilities as well. And I'm also giving a speech on how to glom onto parking spaces that are committed by friends in the radio business, and it never happened. So everybody's going to listen to that part.
All right, Rick, you've covered these, you follow them, you've been employed with these stadium deals all across the country. Is there a real threat here with relocation with the D-backs?
Well, yeah. Here's the thing: every team needs a house and a new house. And I'm not being overly dramatic about this, but if you don't have your facility for an extended period of time, everything else kind of grinds to a halt. You can't do great TV deals. You can't do concessions. Your payroll is questionable. So it's really important for anybody, not just the Diamondbacks, to get a legitimate public-private partnership that is important for their long-term future. So I'm not the one to talk about the details and which 250 gets done and how that's done, et cetera, et cetera. There's a wide variety of approaches that cities and markets do, and some markets work better than others. I will say that in tourist destinations, public-private partnerships make a lot more sense because they do attract tourists, and you do have ways to pay for it that are tourist-related that wouldn't be as appropriate in cities that don't have those dynamics. So, look, it's a very difficult situation, and when I cut my teeth on it in Miami, you had failure, one after another, and then finally you got it done. And you got it done when everybody perceived that the time was running out. So maybe that's a factor.
When you look at, say, the top 20 cities, and we're one of them, we're up there, what percentage is it public-private, the public-private model? Is it 90%?
Well, yeah. So that's the thing. There are cities, and it's not just population. There are, tourist-based cities where the public sector spends a big preponderance of the dollars. Look at the Miami deal. Look at the arena deals in tourist cities. Look at the baseball deals in warmer weather communities. The bigger markets, meaning the LAs, New Yorks, you have less reliance on the public money because the private sector is so large and they can pay for more of it. So it really does go over all over the lot, but it has to be a meaningful contribution by both parties or it's not going to work.
Well, at this point, and then you talked about urgency. The lease for this Diamondbacks ball club is 2027, Rick. Can they have a year-by-year lease until they get this figured out? Or as far as the city is concerned, maybe the Diamondbacks, maybe they figure we want to get this figured out now because if we have to move, we got to make plans now. So when you talk about urgency, is this something that's got to be decided within the next 2 months or 3 months, knowing that 2027 is the end of your lease?
Well, you don't have to work backwards for when the shovel has to be in the ground. You work backwards from, when a team is willing to make the commitment as a partner with the public sector. So you see some of these deals where they do a year-to-year extension because they know the facility is going to get done, and it's not going to get done maybe by the exact time a lease is finished, but you know the commitment is there. So you're willing to be a little more flexible. A lot of other situations, the Oakland situation is a good one. You know, they could have spent another year or two up in Oakland, but they knew that they weren't going to get it done. So they end up with the deal in Vegas. But in the meantime, Sacramento gets the team 1-2 and maybe another year. So it really does depend on the partnership between the public sector and the team.
All right, so the partnership right now here in Phoenix, it's a little bumpy, and you have cities that are salivating. Salt Lake City's interested. Portland is interested. Nashville is interested. Are they already making inquiries to the owner of the Diamondbacks saying, hey, if things don't work, come talk to us?
Well, and I don't know that. And if I were to speculate, it would be a disservice to the community because I know all the parties. And you ought to ask Derek Hall and you ought to ask Ken Kendrick, and, you know, they'll tell you what they'll tell you. But I will tell you that there are a lot of markets out there that really want a team. And it doesn't matter, frankly, to each of those markets, whether it's expansion or relocation. You know, Nashville, you know, I'll tell you, Nashville, Salt Lake, as we said, Monterrey, Mexico, Charlotte. There are, you know, any number of communities that would love a Major League Baseball team and would ante up for it. And so there is a dynamic to this that is way beyond just one deal. And the other thing that I've noticed, and I really believe it, and I could write a book about it. Oh, I already did. The deals usually happen at the head of a gun at the last minute. And I will say that if a team leaves, you guarantee it's going to cost twice as much or even more to replace. If you don't think so, you know, look at Houston after the Oilers left. You know, look at St. Louis after the Cardinals left once, and then you know, again. All of these deals, just absolute fact, it takes a lot more to get a team back when the community realizes, hey, we should have done X to keep him here.
So we got two parts of my question here. $500 million needed for maintenance. Number one, why would they allow this to go up so high? Haven't they been doing maintenance the last 30 years? And number two, they want to specifically earmark all the taxes at the stadium to go toward that maintenance. Where would those taxes go if they weren't earmarked? Do they just go to the district, the downtown area, and per se, versus being funneled just for maintenance?
Yeah, and the reason I'm not going to get specific,
3 minutes.
There's so much detail in all of that. That here's the thing people ought to remember. The money in these deals can be treated in different ways. You got tax money in, you've got dollars that aren't going to be significant teacher welfare or stadium dollars. These monies will come from other sources that are geared to tourism. So that's first. The second piece of this is that somebody's got to take care of. And it's not just, you know, turning a screw or putting in a light bulb. If you're talking about maintenance, you're talking about something that's going to keep a facility going for years and years and years. So this is foresightful. This is looking ahead. And so if you look at all of this together, it's a combination of capital improvements. It's a combination of ongoing, making sure the facility is tip top for years to come. And you put it all in a pot. And some of it is going to come from the public sector and some of it's going to come from a team. Just to keep it simple, you know, if you say you're earmarking this piece and it should go to this or the other, I don't think that's the key to the debate. I think the key to the debate is, do you have willing participants in both sides to make this deal happen?
Rick, I know you're busy doing speeches, signing autographs, all that good stuff, but have you peeked into the college football playoff, moving to a straight seating model, and how much of a financial impact do you think that will create?
Of course you have to peek into it. And so, you know, what I think is going to happen is that it's constantly going to be tweaked. Mm-hmm. And every time the college football model is going to be tweaked, it's going to be more money and more games that are set out separately. and I think we have a really good tiger by its tail. And if you don't think so, think back from your neck of the woods of how Arizona State fared in those playoffs. Many people are thinking that, well, maybe they shouldn't have gotten that high seed. But look at the stories that came out of college football this last year.
Yep.
It is immense. And it's not signing autographs here. I'm on a year-long quest. Maybe I'm too intense about this, but I got to get parking spaces in places I go because I can't rely on my friends anymore.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. I mean, you don't need to rent a car anymore because you get the black car service, right? So the parking thing has been thrown out. I think we've been going back and forth on the parking thing for 10 years now on this show? I mean, what is it going to take for it to go away?
There was one way. I'll tell you how you could have made it go away. Year one, you could have done it, and it would have been pretty easy. But now we're going to go through this for the rest of your natural life, pal, so get used to it.
That's your penance, right? By the way, you're in D.C. It was going to take an act of Congress to get that parking pass. You're right there.
Yeah, well, but I'm going to triple and double and quadruple park, and because of all the budget cuts, there's going to be nobody to enforce it.
Exactly.
Anyway, so I'm going to be
with all the rumblings out there, the College Sports Commission plan has been paused. Is this going to continue to just go back and forth, start, stop, and will there ever be an end?
Yeah, but it's not going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be, look, I look at it as a very practical, everybody's trying to come up with a solution, and you'd rather have them go back and forth, as you call it, than not have any movement at all. So I don't see this as the end of the world.
Rick, we'll let you get back. I mean, I'm sure with the time difference, you're getting ready. Big, I'm sure Ruth, Chris, Mastros, Morton's all waiting for you. Do they always have a table for you?
It's a double dip. I'm going to Ruth at 8 and Chris at 9.
There you go. There you go. Tiramisu.
How's that?
All right, buddy. Thank you as always.
See you next week. Bye.
You got it. Rick Horrow, the sports professor, joining us from D.C., as he's been part of a lot of deals. He brought Major League Baseball to Florida. And he had been working, I believe, with Michael Bidwell a little bit when they were trying to get this stadium deal done. So he's
dialed in.
He's dialed in with the stadium.
He's in the know. I thought he brought a lot of good
points. Notice he didn't want to stay much.
Interesting.
And that's just from experience. He did go to Northwestern, did go to Harvard, so I get it. It's like he said, it's a tough spot to be in.
I think at the very end where he said that the rub is the spending of the monies for the taxes, because they want to make sure that money that the stadium is all earmarked for maintenance. And he just looked at, well, that's not as easy as it sounds. They want that money to be spread out.
Clear to toss whenever.
That's going to be the key to get this passed.
And I think that's why the mayor of Phoenix is saying, hey, well, wait a second.
Yeah.
I want to know exactly where this money is going.
I get that.
We love to hear from you. What happens if Chase Field falls apart and the D-backs can't get it renovated? Do they move? Do they build new? Or do they leave the state entirely? We're taking your calls next at 602-230-0620. That's 602-230-0620. It's your team. It's your valley. It's your call. 602